Hello, this is the 49th lecture on Revelation and World History. We have completed chapters 1 through 6 of Revelation and World History. We have completed the first half of the 12-chapter lecture and are now entering the second half. We have covered several crucial topics in the interpretation of the book of Revelation. We have discovered the true identity of the two beasts that appear in Revelation chapter 13, the seven-headed beast. And we have come to know who the beast with two horns like a lamb is, the one corresponding to 666. We also found a community of 144,000 people. We have also historically verified the relationship between Gog and Magog and Babylon. From this lecture onward, we will examine another important topic, the Battle of Armageddon. In this lecture, we will explore the question, what is the Battle of Armageddon? Revelation and World History, Chapter 7, The Battle of Armageddon. Section 1, What is the Battle of Armageddon? Among the various issues and topics addressed in the interpretation of the book of Revelation, the one that interests the general public, not theologians, is the Battle of Armageddon. Until the two beasts are revealed, their true nature remains unknown. And theologians often debate the millennial kingdom. The general public's greater interest in the Battle of Armageddon stems from the belief that it is the so-called final war of humanity at the end of time. People generally believe that this war will involve 200 million soldiers, who will kill a third of humanity. Many churches also interpret and teach this way. However, this is merely a scenario created by filmmakers and novelists, combining various passages from the book of Revelation. Following the two world wars of the 20th century, many people have been saying that the next world war will be none other than the Battle of Armageddon. These beliefs have been subconsciously imprinted in people's minds as fact. However, we must first carefully examine the biblical passages that record these events and understand exactly what they are saying. The word Armageddon appears only once in the Bible, in Revelation chapter 16 verse 16. Revelation chapter 16 verse 14 describes the battle that will unfold at Armageddon. It says, the war that will take place on the great day of the Almighty. This great day is synonymous with the day of the Lord and is understood as the day when God judges the world. However, the book of Revelation, like the identity of Gog and Magog, does not provide a detailed historical account of Armageddon. If the identity of Gog and Magog is described in Ezekiel, then it would be appropriate to first examine the text in Zechariah regarding the identity of Armageddon. This is because Zechariah chapter 12 verse 11 describes the mourning in the valley of Megiddo. Let's look at the text in Zechariah chapter 12. The word of the Lord concerning Israel. This is what the Lord says, He who stretched out the heavens, laid the foundations of the earth, and formed the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of intoxication for all the peoples around her, even Judah during the siege against Jerusalem. In that day, I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all peoples. All who lift it will be severely wounded. All the kingdoms of the earth will gather against it. In that day, declares the Lord, I will strike every horse with terror, and its rider with madness. But I will spare the house of Judah, and I will strike every horse of every people with blindness. The leaders of Judah will say in their hearts, the inhabitants of Jerusalem find strength in the Lord Almighty their God. In that day, I will make the leaders of Judah like a firepot among the trees, like a torch of fire among the sheaves. They will crush all the peoples, surrounding them on their right and on their left. It will be burned to the ground. And the people of Jerusalem will live again in their own home, in Jerusalem. The Lord will save the tents of Judah first, so that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem will not be greater than that of Judah. On that day, the Lord will defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the weakest among them will be like David on that day. And the house of David will be like God, like the angel of the Lord before them. On that day, I will seek to destroy the nations that come against Jerusalem. I will pour out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplication, so that they will look on me, the one they have pierced, and they will mourn for him, as one mourns for an only child, and grieve bitterly for him, as one grieves for a firstborn son. On that day, there will be great mourning in Jerusalem, like the mourning at Hadadrimmon, in the valley of Megiddo. The whole earth will mourn, every family apart from itself, the house of David apart, and their wives apart. All the remaining tribes will mourn, each by itself, and their wives by themselves. Zechariah chapter 12 verses 1 to 14. All the kingdoms of the earth will gather against it. Zechariah chapter 12 verse 3. In other words, this passage speaks of the entire world gathering in the valley of Megiddo to attack the one nation of Israel. The day of the Lord is coming, and your wealth will be divided among you. I will gather the nations to fight against Jerusalem. The city will be taken, the houses plundered, and the women ravished. Half the people will go into exile, but the remnant will not be cut off from the city. Then the Lord will go out and fight against the nations, as he did in the day of battle. Zechariah chapter 14 verses 2 to 3. These events are not symbolic, but the prophetic text indicates that war is actually taking place. All the nations of the earth will come against Israel, but their plans will not succeed. For God will strike down the nations that have attacked Israel. In other words, it is clear that the invading foreign nation will be defeated in the war. However, looking into past history, we do not find examples of a coalition of nations invading Israel. Most of the time, a large nation or empire invaded Israel, destroyed it, and made it a vassal state. Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, and the Roman Empire were all like this. On the other hand, the so-called Six-Day War, in modern times, corresponds to the war between Israel and other allied powers. This is the Third Middle East War, that broke out on June 5, 1967. Between Israel and the Arab coalition, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. We referred to Choi Chong-mo's History of Israel. This war was a victory for Israel over the Arab coalition. So, the defeat of the Gentile nations is similar to the text. However, this Arab coalition cannot be considered to correspond to the many nations of the world mentioned in the text. Furthermore, Zechariah chapter 14 verse 2 states that half the people of the cities of Israel will be taken into captivity. However, Israel's unilateral victory in the Six-Day War, which ultimately led to its occupation of the West Bank and the Sinai Peninsula, contradicts the text's description. The world's allies must find a war in which they attack a single country, Israel. The word Armageddon appears in Revelation chapter 16 verse 16. The word Armageddon refers to Mount Megiddo, or the hill of Megiddo. Zechariah chapter 12 verse 11 describes the mourning in the valley of Megiddo. This passage describes a war in which a coalition of nations from around the world attacks a single nation, Israel. Therefore, looking for a war in which a world coalition attacks a country is a shortcut to getting closer to the reality of the War of Armageddon. In the next lecture, we will explore Chapter 7 Section 2, World War II, in Revelation and World History. It was the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can continue listening to the lectures on Revelation and world history.